ahead of us today, a lot to do today. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Melanie and Milton Gertner, in memory of Melanie's father, Roderick Gruner. Am I saying that correctly? Gibner, I'm sorry. Daniel, Ruvain, and Avram grew up down in the merit of our Tamator Neshama as an Aliyah and family in Nechama. Also dedicated by the Grossman family in memory of Ira's mother, Freda Bas Shmuel. We hope that in the merit of our Tamator Neshama will have an Aliyah. Nishmas Eliezer ben Klonos. We hope together all of these Neshama Shav and Aliyah, all the Cholim should have a refuah, Havai Yisrael should have Geula. Okay, so I'll say so. Today's daf is Yudalit. So we actually in yesterday's shir we actually made a good bit of headway onto Yudalit Amud Aleph. But for the sake of those who weren't here yesterday, we'll pick up again Emir Hashem from the top of Yudalit. Shepam Achas Gazra Gezerah. Malchus Harash. So remember again, the context of the Gemara over here is dealing with the idea, the Gemara put forward the idea that smicha, we're not talking about the ability to go ahead and confer smicha upon others. So the Gemara suggested that smicha could only be conferred with the Beis Din of 3 people. Says the Gemara is challenging now that particular assertion. Shepam achas gazra malchus harash gezerah al Yisrael. One time the Romans went ahead and put forward that whoever goes ahead and grants smicha to someone else will be put to death. And whoever receives smicha, yeharik. So whoever gives smicha will be killed, whoever gets smicha will be killed. And any city that is in proximity to where the smicha was granted will be destroyed. And any city that's within the tchum of where smicha was conveyed will be destroyed as well. So obviously what you see over here is the Romans are doing anything and everything in their power to stamp out smicha. Why stamp out smicha? Because at the end of the day, if you stop smicha, what the Romans assumed was that you will stop the shalshalas ha-mesorah. You will stop the chain of the transmission of our tradition of the Mesorah, and thereby ultimately eradicate Klal Yisrael. Of course, again, the amazing part is, even though today we don't have that same Shalshalas has-Mesorah, or that same Shalshalas has-Smicha. We don't have today we have Smicha, but the Smicha we have today is much more of a Zecher, much more of a remembrance of that which was done. It's not an actual continuance in the chain of what the Gemara calls Smicha. But again, that's Netzach Yisrael Lo Yishaker. In any event, the Romans thought that if they did this, they would eliminate smicha, eliminate the Mesorah, eliminate Klal Yisrael. Ma'asi Yehuda ben Bava. So what did Yehuda ben Bava do? So the Gemara says, Halach liyashiv lo ben shnei harim gidolim, ubein shnei ayaros gidolos, ubein shnei tchumei shabbos. So bein usha l'shafra'am. So Yehuda ben Bava chooses a location that essentially, again, does not satisfy any of the Romans' criteria. It was between 2 mountains, in between 2 cities, in between 2 tchumim. The idea over here was that Yehuda ben Bava wanted to shield any of the associated inhabitants of any of these places from suffering the repercussions of the Romans' wrath. So he purposely chose a location that did not conform to any of the previously stated criteria. And what did he do? V'samach sham chamisha zakinim. He conferred smicha to 5 elders. Who were they? Now again, in this context, Zakinim doesn't mean old, but rather again, Zakinim means the acronym for Zeh Shekana Chachma, 5 of the emerging Rabbanim, and who were they? Elohim, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, that's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lazar ben Shamua. Rav Avia Mosi, Rav Avia added to this list Rabbi Nechemia. So we'll see if this list sounds familiar. It's because remember, these are the 5 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. These are ultimately, again, after the 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died. So Rabbi Akiva went ahead, remember again, and went and found 5 new Talmidim. These are the 5 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. We actually discussed this particular episode last week. Now, why Rabbi Akiva didn't grant them smicha, Gemara doesn't tell us. But whatever the situation is, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava takes it upon himself to grant smicha to these individuals. Kevan shikiru ayvehem bahem. So what happens? The Romans find out what Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava is doing. So they send a legion of soldiers to go and to kill Yehuda ben Bava and these 5 new musmachim. Amar Lahan, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava says, Banai, Rotsu. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava says an incredible act of Mesilas Nefesh, says, my sons, run. Mate alecha. So he said, Rabbi, what's going to happen to you if we run? Amar Lahan harini muta lifnehem ke'even she'im lahovchem. I will place myself in front of the Romans like a stone which cannot be overturned. So Yehuda ben Bava was saying, you run, I will protect you. So the Gemara says, Lo zazim misham. So the 5 Talmidim escape. Yehuda ben Bava remains in front of the Romans, and the Gemara says, Lo zazim misham ad shena atzu bo shalosh meos lunvios shal barzel va'asu kikabra. Again, they catch up with Yehuda ben Bava. Not they catch up with Yehuda ben Bava doesn't move. He remains steadfast in front of the Romans. They kill him, and the Gemara says they speared him so many times. They literally 300 times with their spears that he became like a sieve. They pierced his body so many times it became like a sieve. So what I say, when the Gemara says, what's the point over here is, first of all, the incredible mice in general, just about the Mesiras Nefesh. Sometimes it's important to understand that the reason we are here today is because of the Mesiras Nefesh of those who came before us. We stand literally upon the shoulders of generations and generations of Mesiras Nefesh. This is one story among millions of stories throughout the history of Klal Yisrael of those who sacrificed. And it also is an incredible yisod, because every generation is called on to be Moser Nefesh for something. Our generation, Baruch Hashem, doesn't have the Mesiras Nefesh of previous generations. We don't have the persecution. We don't have the rabid anti-Semitism, or it still exists, but the overt anti-Semitism, the persecution that our ancestors had to deal with. So we have to figure out for ourselves what our Mesiras Nefesh is. Every door has to have Mesiras Nefesh. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava was this paradigm of Mesiras Nefesh. The point the Gemara is making for this story is Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava is one person, and yet he's conveying smicha. That poses a kasha to what we said, because you're saying in your Gimel days that you need a basin of 3 to go ahead and convey smicha. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava achrini havu ba'adei. There are other people with Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. So the Gemara says, "V'hai delo chashav lahu mishum kavodo Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava." And in fact, there were 2 other people with Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, and the reason they're not mentioned is out of deference to Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. The idea being, out of kavod Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, he's mentioned as if he was alone, but Lamaisi he wasn't alone. There were 2 other rabbanim with him. So therefore, again, it was a smicha. It was a basin of 3 who were conveying smicha. I've hamar Rabbi Bar Chana Am Rabbi Yochanan. Kol Omer Rabbi Meir lo samchu Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara, excuse me, Kol Omer Rabbi Meir lo samchu Rabbi Akiva ena elatoa. To which the Gemara says, so Rabbi Meir, the Gemara says that whoever says that Rabbi Meir was not given smicha by Rabbi Akiva is mistaken. So most I see, here's the interesting part. Rabbi Meir is included in the list of Yehuda ben Bava, right? I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Did I skip a line here? Rabbi Meir, excuse me, I'm sorry. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Samchem. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. It was Rabbi Meir. Was Rabbi Meir given smicha Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava? Vaha Amar Rabbi Bar Bar Chana Am Rabbi Yochanan. Kol Omer Rabbi Meir lo samchu Rabbi Akiva eino ela toah. Yet again, the Gemara Rabbi Yochanan says, whoever says Rabbi Meir did not receive his smicha from Rabbi Akiva is making a mistake. So we'll say, so you see over here, the Gemara is just asking just a follow-up question, nothing to do with our topic at hand. Just Rabbi Meir is one of the 5 who received smicha from. Yet Rabbi Yochanan said that in fact Rabbi Meir received smicha from Rabbi Akiva, to which the Gemara says, Samchi Rabbi Akiva v'lo kiblu, Samchi Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava v'kiblu. So apparently, again, when Rabbi Akiva gave smicha to Rabbi Meir, the smicha was not accepted. When Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava gave smicha to Rabbi Meir, it was accepted. So we'll say, so what is this? That the hechsher of one is accepted, the hechsher of one is not accepted. So if you look at Rashi, Rashi is v'lo kiblu, the isha dayin hayav bachar. So interesting enough, it wasn't a problem with Rabbi Akiva's smicha. It was that Rabbi Meir was still very young. So even though he had smicha from Rabbi Akiva, it wasn't really so accepted because he was very young. At the time he got smicha from Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, and therefore it was accepted. So the Gemara goes right there. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel Levi. Rabbi Shmuel Levi says the following: "Ein smicha b'chutz la'aretz." So we'll say you can't confer smicha outside of Eretz Yisrael. Smicha, meaning pure smicha, can only be conferred in Eretz Yisrael itself. So the Gemara says, "My ein smicha." What does that mean? If you want to say that outside of Eretz Yisrael, you can't adjudicate knas cases, that's not true. V'hatanan we learned, Sanhedrin nohages bein ba'aretz, bein b'chutz la'aretz. At the we learned that the Mishnah taught us that the Sanhedrin is able to operate both in Eretz Yisrael as well as in chutz la'aretz. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Pshita somchin b'chutz la'aretz. So the Gemara says, rather, what does it mean? It means that we give smicha in chutz la'aretz, And we also give smicha, we give smicha in chutz la'aretz, v'nismach in ba'aretz. And smicha convey or conferred upon those in Eretz Yisrael. To which the Gemara says, doesn't make sense. Ha'amrin and below. We just said you can't confer smicha in chutz la'aretz. So rather says the Gemara, Ella, somchin ba'aretz, v'nismachin b'chutz la'aretz, mai. Rather says the Gemara, the question that we're asking is the following. Can you give smicha? Can someone in Eretz Yisrael give smicha to someone in chutz la'aretz? So we'll say the real fundamental question is, can you give smicha to someone who is not in front of you? Or do we say in order for smicha to be given, so the somech and the nismach, the one giving smicha and the one receiving smicha, must be together. Take a look at Rashi here just a moment. It's in, we'll say, in the short lines, in the shorter lines, about 8 lines in. Somchin ba'aretz and nismachin b'chutz la'aretz mai. Ima somech omi b'eretz Yisrael, if the person conferring smicha is in Eretz Yisrael, v'nismach omid b'Bavel, and the person receiving smicha is in Bavel, v'leisei gabe somech. So in other words, the recipient of the smicha is not in front of the person giving the smicha. Mi mahani kilu isei gabe b'shas smicha, umatzi lemeidan b'chutz la'aretz k'destam b'Sanhedrin. No, again, so here's the fundamental shayla. So now here's what we've established, is that smicha conferred in Eretz Yisrael, right? So what does this mean? Does this mean, what the question the Gemara is asking now is, if the somech, the person giving smicha, is in Eretz Yisrael, but the nismach is in chutz la'aretz, does that work? In other words, do you need the somech and the nismach ultimately to be together or not? So the Gemara says the following: Tashma, Rabbi Yochanan having mitztar elei Rabbi Shmuel bar Abba, delo hava gabayu delismechei. An interesting story over here. Rav Shimon bar Abba was very upset. Rabbi Yochanan was very upset that he could not give smicha to Rav Shimon bar Abba. Now, what this sounds like is that Rav Shimon bar Abba was not in proximity to Rabbi Yochanan, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan was unable to give him smicha. Furthermore, Rav Shimon bar Zirut v'chadime. Furthermore, Rabbi Yochanan also wanted to convey smicha to Rabbi Shimon bar Zirut and another person. Who was the other person? Umanu, Rabbi Yochanan ben Achmoi. Others say it was Rabbi Yonasan ben Achmoi v'chadime. Others say that no, Rabbi Yochanan wanted to go ahead and convey smicha to Rabbi Yonasan ben Achmoi and someone else. And who was that? Who was that someone else? Umanu, Rabbi Shimon bar Zirut, ben Zirut. Chad dahava gabayu samchua, v'chad delo hava gabayu lo samchua. So we'll say Rabbi Yochanan ultimately gives smicha to the one whom was able to come to him, but did not give smicha to the one who was unable to come to him. In other words, we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that in order to convey smicha, to confer smicha upon someone, there has to be what? The person, the nismach, the person receiving the smicha, must be in the presence of the person giving the smicha. So there is no such thing as long distance learning by smicha, right? There's no such thing as online certifications, right? At the end of the day, now again, we'll say today it's different because today, remember, this is talking about smicha in its purest form. So today, again, we don't really have complete smicha. We have more of a zecher to smicha. But again, what the Gemara is pointing out over here is, in order for this chain of true smicha, real smicha, to continue, ultimately, again, the nismach, the person receiving smicha, must actually come to the somich, must actually come to the person conferring smicha. And if they can't be if they can't be face to face with each other, then smicha cannot be granted. I'm sorry?
He had to be tested, probably.
Well, there are other ways that you could test people. You could test by proxy also. You could have someone else local testing. But the idea is this is a din in the shalshalas. This is a din in maintaining the chain of smicha, that there has to be a direct face-to-face between the somich and the nismach. Says the Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yoshia, Chavak Hamishtakid, Rabbi Yochanan lemismechinu. Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yochanan wanted. So let me say it differently. Rabbi Yochanan was trying very hard to give smicha to Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yoshia. And what happens? Lo hava mistaya milsa. For whatever reason, it never worked out. It just never worked out. Rashi says over here, Lo hava mistaya milsa, kisha etzlo, lo hayamotzi shnaim sheyitztarfu imo lo samcho, va'anan plasavinas. So in this case over here, this wasn't an issue of proximity. In this case over here, Rabbi Yochanan was able to get a face-to-face with Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yoshia. The problem he had is that whenever they were face-to-face, Rabbi Yochanan was never able to get two other people to come to form a beis din with him. In other words, remember, we've established already she needed a beis din of 3 for smicha. So Rabbi Yochanan wants to give smicha to Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Oshia, and every single time they're together, Rabbi Yochanan can't assemble 2 more people for a beis din. So he was upset. It was very troubling for him. Why am I not able to assemble this beis din? We'll say second wide line Yudalam Dalef. Amrulay. So we'll say Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan, don't be upset. Lo nitztarimar. Do not be upset. Why? Because we are from the family of Eli. We are from the family of Eli Cohen. Remember again, Eli Cohen was the Cohen Gadol at the time of Shmuel Hanavi, and the Eli Cohen's family was cursed. He was cursed ultimately again because his sons Chafni and Pinchas took inappropriate advantage of their positions within the Mishkan, and as a result, there was a curse leveled upon the house of Eli. That curse was that the male members of the house of Eli would all die young. So the Gemara said, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman Rabbi Yonasan, Minayin shenismach in the base Eli. How do we know that we do not give smicha to the male members of the house of Eli? Shnei Amar lo yihye zaken beveisecha kol hayamim. Because the curse that was given ultimately to the house of Eli was that there will never be a zaken in your home all of your days. My zaken, what does zaken mean? Ilem was zaken mamish. If you say that zaken literally means that no one's ever going to get old, all the male members of the family will die early. V'haksiv kol marbis beis chayamusu anoshim. The pasuk already says that. It says that all the male members of your house will die anoshim. We'll say that anoshim is understood in this context to mean young. Elo smicha. Rather, it must be that when it says lo yiyeh zakin b'veisecha, zakin means that ultimately what? There will never be a member of your household who will go ahead and receive smicha. So the Gemara says, look at Rashi for just a moment. Elo smicha shafilu chachamim ha'abanim lachlal zikna kegon ayidei Torah gemilas chasodim k'darmina b'Rosh Hashanah bezevach u'mincha ino miskaber aval miskaber b'Torah gemilas chasodim mikomakom. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the Gemara Rashi quotes over it, Shana discusses that there was a way for the members of the house of Eli to go ahead and achieve longevity. And how was that? Says the Gemara, it was through Gemilas Chasodim. That if the members of the house of Eli would engage in Torah and Chesed, then they would be able to defy the curse, and they would be able to lead long lives. The right was that 2 of the famous descendants of Eli were Abai and Rava. Abai and Rava were blessed with longevity. The Gemara, even though they were descendants of Eli, the Gemara attributes their longevity ultimately to the fact that they were osik, that they were involved in Torah and Gemilas Chasod. So the Gemara says, even though the male members of the house of Eli could defy or could overcome this incredible curse, this klala, through Torah Gemilas Chasodim, but nevertheless, again, they will never be members of the Sanhedrin. They will never, and therefore, again, by definition, they will never receive smicha. So Rabbi Yochanan is always wondering to himself, why is it that I can't get it together to go ahead and give smicha to Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Oshia? And the answer, Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Oshia says, because we are members, we are descendants of the house of Eli. In our Masorah, we understand the house of Eli is never to receive actual smicha. Incredible Gemara. Rabbi Zera, also this is another incredible Gemara. Rabbi Zera, hava mitmir lemismeche. Listen to this, what I'm saying. Rabbi Zera used to hide in order not to receive smicha. Do Amar Rabbi Elazar, the olam hava kabel v'kayim, because he used to live his life ultimately again by the words of Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar said, the olam forever hava kabel. Hava kabel means cloak yourself in darkness. In other words, hide out v'kayim. And Rashi says over here, v'kayim means live. V'tichya kilomar harchek min harabanus shemekareves es ba'ala afela. Stay away from Rabbanus because it brings its not a very heartening part, but okay. In any event, politics. Right. What it means is like the famous vart of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Right, we saw this together. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, we read it, Harei Anika ben Shevim Shana. So remember, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so I'm like 70 years old. So remember again, the Gemara says, ben Shevim Shana. So remember again, we know the famous Gemara. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was 18 years old when he was appointed the Reish Masifta. He was appointed Rosh Hashiva. And the Gemara says a miracle occurred that overnight he became gray. Right? Overnight he became gray. So the Ben Yehoyada in that Gemara says there's no miracle there. Right? The Gemara says that as soon as Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah went ahead and assumed the mantle of leadership, so he aged. In other words, because the mantle of leadership that causes a person to have to deal with a lot of stuff. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah felt that weight immediately. So the Gemara says over here that Rabbi Zera used to hide. People wanted to confer smicha upon him. He hid. Why did he hide? Because he wanted to live. I will say live means, could literally mean he wanted to live, or perhaps what it really means is he wanted to live an unencumbered life, meaning he didn't want to have to deal with all of the sometimes craziness that comes along with communal leadership. So he used to go ahead and hide himself away from receiving smicha. Watch this. Kevan deshama lahad amra belazar, ein adam ola legedula. Ela imkin mochel and la kalavon asav. Also listen to this. But then Rabbi Zera heard the teaching of Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Elazar says that the Ribono Shel Olam only allows a person to ascend to a position of greatness, a position of authority, a position of leadership, if all of his sins are forgiven. In other words, that Rabbi said the Ribono Shel Olam only allows someone to take on a position of leadership if he first forgives their sins. In other words, it's almost like the quid pro quo. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're going to take on the craziness of my children, you're going to take on the craziness of a leadership position in Klal Yisrael, I'll give you amnesty, right? I'll wipe your slate clean. It's right. It's the schar for ultimately taking upon the yoke of leadership. Once Rabbi Zera heard this, he allowed himself ultimately, he presented himself. He allowed himself ultimately again to go ahead and give smicha and ultimately assume the mantle of leadership. We'll say this Gemara is an incredible yisod because sometimes people shy away from positions of leadership because the truth is it's so much easier just to be a regular person. It is. We all know that. And it's so much easier not to have to deal with all of the other associated difficulties. What the Gemara is telling you is, what does it mean? Kadosh Baruch Hu wipes the slate clean. It means that when a person assumes a position of leadership within Klal Yisrael, whatever that position of leadership is, big or small, they have that helps the person like that. You're trying to further the cause of Klal Yisrael. You're trying to do something. You're trying to help. You're trying to advance. The Ribono Shel Olam says, I need, again, the prerequisite of us for this is that it's leadership lishma, that it's leadership for the sake of advancing the agenda of Klal Yisrael, not a personal agenda, that it's for the sake of bettering the Klal, and not just simply for your self-aggrandizement. But if a person is willing to take on that yoke, a person is willing to lead, a person is willing to roll up your sleeves for Klal Yisrael, the Ribono Shel Olam says, I will give you siyata d'shmaya. I will help you along this journey. Incredible Gemara. This is so beautiful. When they went ahead and they gave smicha to Rabbi Zera. So apparently, again, they have like a chaga smicha. So they gave smicha to Rabbi Zera. It was a big thing. So they sang to him. So listen to this shelach. Listen to how beautiful this is. What do they sing to him? Sharli hachi lo kachol v'lo srak v'lo pirchas v'ya'alas chen. They said to him, literally, without any eye makeup, without any blush, without any type of cosmetics, he's so beautiful. Right, Joe? So remember again, this is good for Shalom Bayis also, right? The greatest compliment the husband could give to his wife is tell her that she looks beautiful without any kind of makeup as well. You should say it even if it's not true. Right? I'm saying it's good. Right? It's good. It's just good. It's a good thing. Hopefully it is true for every husband. So as I said, they said ultimately again about Rabbi Zera that he had a natural beauty. You don't need any of the cosmetics, even without anything. Rabbi Zera radiates such a beautiful beauty. When they gave smicha to Rabbi Asi, they sang them the following: Kol min din smuchu lana. People like this should be given smicha. Lo tismuchu lana lo misarmitin velo misarmisin. We should give smicha to people like this, but you should not give smicha to sarmitin. So Rashi says over here, sarmitin and sarmisin. Sarmitin, I will say, are rags, and misarsimin are people who turn things upside down. So the people who are singing, that Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, these are people who are fit to receive smicha. But people who are shmatos, which means, by the way, so the Maharsha points out, people who are shmatos. Both say to be a leader, this is an important yesod. That to be, and this is true in any position of leadership. The goal is not to make the people happy. That is not the goal. According to many times, it's actually Gemara. I always thought it was a Chasam Sofer. Somebody pointed out to me it was a Gemara. That the Gemara says that any Rav who is liked by everyone is not doing his job. Right? Any Rav who is disliked by everyone is not a bench. What an incredible yisod. People think the job of a leader is to make everybody happy. If you're making everybody happy, you're absolutely not doing your job. The job of a leader is to advance the collective agenda, knowing full well there are always going to be some who are not happy for whatever the reason. sometimes legitimate, most times not legitimate. And therefore, again, a person can't be a shmat. You see, if you think your job is to make everybody happy, you become a welcome mat, right? Because then everybody tramples on you, and ultimately, so again, when Rabbi Asi become the Rabbanim, they get smicha, they say, we want guys like this, not guys. We want Rabbanim like this. Not smartita, we don't want shmatos, but we also don't want misarsim. I will say misarsim are people, literally Rashi says, they turn things upside down. In other words, we want emistic people, not people who chas v'shalom go ahead and corrupt the different messages for their own advancement. We don't want thieves, which is a good thing. We don't want thieves, absolutely, like a chamson, right? Rashi says, what does it mean, thieves? We don't want Rabbanim who will just simply paskin in heavy-handed ways. Rather, we want Rabbanim who will explain their respective positions. In other words, Rosh Hashanah means he holds back the reasoning. Tell us the reasoning, allow us to understand, bring us into the process. But we don't want to say turmisin. The Rush defines defines it as some type of vegetable that's bitter. So in other words, we don't want bitterness from our leaders either. We'll say an incredible yisod. Now Rashi interesting says over turmisin lo isparish. He says, I don't know what this is. The Rush, I don't know what type of vegetable it refers to, but Rashi says it refers to some type of bitter vegetable. It's supposed to say an incredible yisod. What does it mean you don't want bitter vegetables? It's supposed to say a leader always has to have a chen. That a leader always has to look like he's happy to hear from the constituents, even if he doesn't want to hear from them, right? And even if Lamai says the same nudnik, not nudnik, I say nudnik in a good way, right? Even if it's the same person that's constantly chewing up his ear about this or that, right? A leader always has to have a smile. We'll say an incredible yisod. Even if you're not having a good day, and even if at the end of the day things are difficult, and even if the person who is approaching you is constantly just difficult, always a smile. Always a smile, even if it's a fake smile, even if it's an unreal smile. I'm talking about others. It's not it's like therapy. It's like therapy. Right? So again, that's the Gemara saying over here. We don't want the bitter vegetables. We don't want the bitter vegetables. What's supposed to is an incredible yisod in life, by the way, that what people want from you when you interact with them is a smile. This, by the way, even if it's nothing to do with Rabbanan, just even what people want when you interact with someone is a smile. Plus, we have this in Pirkei Avos. This is having mekabalas called anam b'sever panim yafos. It is the social contract we have with one another to be nice, even if you're not feeling good, even if you're not having a good day, even if you're in a bad mood, even if you're annoyed. You have no right to interact with another Jew with anything but a smile. And even if you have to fake it, that's the social contract we have with one another. Alachas kama v'kama for those in positions of leadership. Incredible Gemara. Rabbi Avo kava asi misifta lebei Kesar. Let's listen to this. Rabbi Avo shiva and go to the Caesar. So Rabbi Avo was very close to the Caesar, and he used to go to the Caesar to go ahead and deal with all types of matters dealing with the Jewish community. So nafki matronisa lebei Kesar u'mishayrinle. So the Roman women would come out and sing to him. Incredibly so. I say, there was such respect for him, even amongst the Romans, that literally the Roman matrons would come out and they would sing to him. And what would they sing? They would say, Meshayrilei Rabba Da'ame, the Rav of his nation, Midabarna Du'umse, the spokesman for his people, Botsina Dinuhura. He is like the lit candle. And Rashi points out over Botsina Dinuhura, Ashim She'agadol B'noi. He was very handsome. He's very handsome. So they were saying here, he has a luminescent appearance. Baruch Masich L'Shalom. Everything you do, right? Baruch Masich, literally your goings and your comings, ultimately again should be with Shalom. What's an incredible idea that he had such chen that literally again even the Romans saw the chen in him. Fine. So let's say the Gemara goes right. So bottom line, let's say the takeaway from all of this. Well, there's a number of takeaways. First of all, greet everybody with a smile, right? That's number one. Don't shy away from positions of leadership because you feel that they will infringe upon your personal life. They will infringe on your personal life. That's absolutely unequivocally true. And the greater the position, the less personal life you have. But know that if you take the reins of leadership for your people, you have incredible siyata d'shmaya from the Ribbon Shalom. Both say for the Mahalachic perspective, ultimately we learn convey with the basin of three. Good. Back to the Gemara. Arifas Egla B'Shlosh. So also remember again, the next piece in the Mishnah was Egla Rufa. So let's remember again, Eglah Rufa, you find a dead body in between two cities. So the elders come out. Well, first we'll see that the Sanhedrin comes out. So how many people do you need for Eglah Rufa? So the Rabbanan say three. Rabbi Shimon says three. Rabbi Huda says five. Now we're going to dash in this machlokes. So Pasuk says, Zikinecha and Shoftecha will come out. Zikinecha Shnaim, so Zikinecha means two. Shoftecha Shnaim, Shoftim means two. So we'll say that gives you four. Vein Beis Din Shakol, you can't have an even numbered Beis Din. Therefore, Mosif and Alein Odechad, Harikan Chamisha Dev Rabbi Huda. So we'll say Huda Darshans Zikinecha, Darshans Shoftecha, that gives you four. You can't have an even numbered Beis Din, and ultimately, again, that gives you five. So the Rabbi Shimon says, Zikinecha Shnaim. Rabbi Shimon says, no, we only dash in Zikinecha. That gives you two. Vein Beis Din Shakal. You can't have an even numbered Beis Din. Mosif Alein Odechad, Harikan Shlosha. You add on one more, that gives you a Beis Din of two. Rabbi Shimon, Hi Shoftecha, my Avdile. So what does Rabbi Shimon do? I will say with the word Shoftecha. So we'll say Rabbi Shimon ultimately uses Shoftecha to teach you that what? That you have to have the best, right? Miyuchadim, the most distinguished amongst the Shoftim. Rabbi Yehuda, Mizikne Zikenecha Nafka. And Rabbi Yehuda learns this out because the pasuk could have said Zikne, but instead it says Zikenecha. From there we learn that what? That you need the most distinguished amongst the judges. Rabbi Shimon, Imi Zikne Hava Mina Zikne Ashuk. Rabbi Shimon says that the pasuk when it just says Zikne, I would have thought you should even take elders in the marketplace because of Rachmana Zikenecha. Therefore, the Torah says Zikenecha, that they have to be distinguished. Viksiv Zikenecha Hava Mina Sanhedrin Kitano. And if it would have just said Zikenecha, I would have thought perhaps it refers to the small Sanhedrin. We'll say 23 member Sanhedrin because of Rachmana Shoftecha Mimi Yuchadin Shebishoftecha. Therefore, both sides say Shoftecha to teach you the most distinguished amongst your Shoftecha, your Shoftim, which refers to the Sanhedrin Golden Yerushalayim. Rabbi Yehuda, Kamar Zikne, maybe Samchu. Samchu Zikne Ha'ida as Yideyim. So Rabbi Yehuda learns Exer Shava of Zikne. It says Zikne ultimately again by Eglah Rufa. It says Zikne by Par Ha'elam Davar Min Hatzibor, like we learned yesterday. Ma Lahalan Miyuchadan Shebe'ida. So it's just like over there, it means to be most distinguished, i.e. from the members of the Sanhedrin, so to remember means from the members of the Sanhedrin as well. If that's the case, why don't you learn everything from there? Why don't you Zikinecha Shavtecha at all? Rather, I will say, what do we see from here? That the Vav from Shavtecha comes to teach me the number of necessary Dayanim. Rabbi Shimon, Vav lo darish. Rabbi Shimon ultimately doesn't darshan the Vav. Elame ata. So we'll say, see now again. So what we have over here essentially is the following. We have Rabbi Shimon. We have Rabbi Shimon ultimately darshaning Zikinecha. I'm sorry, we have Rabbi Yehuda darshaning Zikinecha and Shoftecha. Right, Zikinecha is two, Shoftecha is two. That gives you four. You can't have a base in a four. Therefore, you have to add on one more. You have five. Rabbi Yehuda, on the other hand, that's Rabbi Yehuda. I'm sorry. Rabbi Shimon only darshans Zikinecha. That gives you two. Can't have a base din of two. That Rabbi Shimon only darshans Zikinecha. Can't have a base din of two. Add on one more. That's three. Says the Gemara. Well, let's take this a step further. The Gemara says, that's the case, I'll say there are two more plural words. V'yatzu, they come out plural. That's two more. Madadu, they will measure. That's plural. The Rabbi Yehuda Hari Tisha. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that should give you a total of 9 dayanim. The Rabbi Shimon Shiva. Homi Bayale Lechid Desayin. No, I will say Yatzu and Madadu is necessary for something else. What is it necessarily? What is it necessary for? Lechid Desayin. As we're going to write so. V'yatzu. What does it mean? They will go out. I will say it means that halacha l'maisa. The members of the Sanhedrin must go out themselves, and they cannot, for Eglah Rufa, they cannot send messengers. Umadadu, they have to measure. Shafilu nimtza amud beis. Shafilu nimtza ba'avil le'ir tzarech la'asos b'medida. The both say it's actually quite interesting. We'll say the halacha of Eglah Rufa is such that even if when looking at the corpse, it is clear that what? It is clear that halacha l'maisa, the corpse is closer to one city. In other words, you could see through your ocular intake, you could see that l'maisa, again, the corpse is closer, objectively closer to one city than the other. The halacha still mandates that what? That you measure. So the Gemara says, Masnisin Dolo Ki Aitano. So our Mishnah Bosek does not reflect the view of the following Tana. This Sanya, so Bosek Yutal in base, second line. This Sanya, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, V'yatzu Zekenecha v'Shavtecha. The pasuk says, the Canaan and your Shoftim shall go out. Zekenecha zu Sanhedrin. We'll say, who is the Zekenecha? So we'll say that refers to. Remember, this is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. This is the Sanhedrin. V'Shavtecha. Ze melech the Kohen Gadol. Can you imagine this? It's going to Eliezer ben Yaakov. When there is a case of a corpse that is found in between two cities, this process of that we call Egla Arufa, according to Eliezer ben Yaakov, requires the entire Sanhedrin as well as the attendance of the king and the Kohen Gadol. Melech Tichsev. How do we know this? Melech Tichsev, Melech b'mishpat yamidaretz, because the pasuk says ultimately again, Melech b'mishpat yamidaretz, Kohen Gadol Tichsev. Ubasa ala kohanim halaviyim ve'ala shofet. So we'll say. So the Gemara says our machlokes over here is between Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon. And we'll say that machlokes focuses on what? On Rabbi Shimon saying that Egla Arufa is through a beis din of 3, and Rabbi Huda says through a beis din of 5. Saying our Mishnah clearly does not reflect the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Why? Because Eliezer ben Yaakov says that for Egla Arufa you need the entire Sanhedrin together with the Kohen Gadol, together with the Machavos. So just so you understand, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's mind, you understand. Let's say, you just understand what that means. You're getting literally again the entirety of religious leadership together, the entire Sanhedrin, the Melech, the Kohen Gadol, everybody together. That is how seriously we go ahead and take bloodshed. Let's say, can you imagine, like, if we applied this standard in Baltimore, right? I'm saying they'd be here every single day. I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying, just so you understand how desensitized we are to murder. Right? When we hear about homicides, okay, whatever, it's a fact of life. Where Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying, no, this cannot happen in society. And if it does, mamish, everything comes to a halt. The Sanhedrin became the Kohen Gadol. Everybody's got to come on site and figure out what exactly happened over here. It's incredible value that Yiddishkeit places on it. We'll say, unfortunately, because we live in such a violent society, there's a desensitization to the value of a life. But the point of Rosa is the Mishnah clearly does not reflect this view, because our Mishnah only includes 2 opinions, Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon. Do you need 3? Do you need 5? But clearly not this approach. So the Gemara says, we're going to explore this a little bit. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov b'chada palig o b'tarti palig. So we'll say, what is when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is obviously arguing something on Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon? Is he arguing on 2 points or only on 1? What does this mean? So the Gemara says, the Melech Kohen Gadol pligi aval b'Sanhedri ikra Yehuda ikra b'Shimon. So we'll say, okay, I jumped a little bit ahead. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that you require the Sanhedrin. Now we don't know what that statement means. So the Gemara is asking over here is the following: when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is arguing, is he just arguing and saying that you need the Melech, you need the Kohen Gadol, but he agrees with either a 3 or 5 model of Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Shimon out the beis din, and that represents the Sanhedrin? O Dilma b'Sanhedri nami pligi palig da'amri kulu Sanhedri ba'inan. Or does Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov literally say, no, not only do you require the Melech and the Kohen Gadol, but what? You require the entire Sanhedrin. So we'll say he's dramatically arguing on the shitos of Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon. Doesn't agree at all. Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon are saying 3 or 5. Now again, obviously they're arguing in terms of whether or not you need the Melech and the Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon both say no. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says yes. So the Shaila is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says you need the Sanhedrin. Does he literally mean the entire Sanhedrin, or is he referring to a beis din of 3 or 5? Amar Yosef Tashma. So Yosef tries to prove this from a different source. Matzan abes pagi v'himra aleh. So we'll say this is talking about Zakin Mamre. Zakin Mamre, we'll say, is a of the Sanhedrin who refuses to accept the majority decision of the Sanhedrin. He refuses to accept it, meaning he feels he is correct, even though the Sanhedrin, ultimately the majority of the Sanhedrin passed in a certain way, he refuses to accept their ruling. So we'll say, what happens if the Sanhedrin is not, now remember, normally the Sanhedrin operates in what's called the Lishkas Hagozis, the chamber of hewn stone, which is one of the chambers in the Beis HaMikdash. Let's say the Zakin Mamre advances his position or refuses to yield to the majority decision, and he makes his stand outside of the Lishkas HaGozis, outside of the area where the Sanhedrin normally goes and operates, and he meets them in Beis Pagi. Rabbi say, what's Beis Pagi? So Rashi points out over here, Beis Pagi, it's the first line in Rashi, Makom Mifnim Min Chomas Ha'ir, V'nidon Yerushalayim Chol Dor. So we'll say, Beis Pagi is part of Yerushalayim, part of the municipality of Yerushalayim, so it's within the walls of Yerushalayim, but it's not the Harabayis. It's not the Harabayis. So what happens? So Amar thought that if the Zakin Mamre rebels against the Sanhedrin, when they're not in Lishkas HaGozis, but they're still in Yerushalayim, I would have thought that this is Hamra, that this is a rebellion, and therefore, what's the punishment for the Zakin Mamre? The punishment of the Zakin Mamre is he's executed, right? Chenek, he's executed. Also, just to understand, he's executed. What does this mean? Doesn't Judaism allow for diversity of opinions? And the answer is no. Right? So that could mean yes, we allow for diversity of opinions to a point. But then I will say it's very important to so because this is where we get. There's a lot of clashes between the pluralistic nature of contemporary society and Yiddishkeit. In society, I will say, so whatever you feel goes. If you feel it, then it's reality. And if you feel it, then Lamaisa, again, it's got to be true. No one has the right to tell you it's not true. Yiddishkeit does not believe in such an approach like that. If we believed in that, we wouldn't be here today. Yiddishkeit believes in machlokes, meaning we have the ability to argue, we have the ability to voice differences of opinion, but there's a process. And once the process decides on a conclusion, then at the end of the day, that is the halacha. And you can't argue on that. That becomes immutable. Of course, again, there are processes for updating halacha, there are processes for accepting societal norms, and there are all kinds of. But what's at the end of the day, not everybody's opinion matters. There is a process, and at the end of the day, there's a conclusion. And even if you don't like that conclusion, that is the conclusion. The Zakin Mamre poses an existential threat to the system. Because I will say, if you have a member of the Sanhedrin who refuses to accept the majority opinion and still stands his own ground, that represents a threat. In Klal Yisrael, we have a Masorah. The Masorah is bigger than any one individual, and so he's executed ultimately if he refuses to yield to the majority opinion. So says the Gemara. So how do I know that if he goes and he makes his stand outside of the chamber of hewn stone, outside of Lishkas HaGozis, that Yochol Tem Amos, I'm going to thought that is an offense for which he can be executed. Talmud Lomar, the Kamta va'alise ala makom, Melamid sha'mokom gorei. So we see from here that the only time a Zakin Mamre is considered to be rebelling against the Sanhedrin is when he takes his stand ultimately in the Lishkas HaGozis, in the chamber of hewn stone. That's when his rebellion ultimately is an executable offense. Side of Lishkas HaGozis, they can't put him to death. Even so, the Gemara says the Nafakama. Now, what's the case? What's the case? Now, you're talking about a case where the Sanhedrin is outside of Lishkas HaGozis. How many members of the Sanhedrin left the Lishkas HaGozis? Say if you want to say it was just part of the Sanhedrin, so we'll say you wouldn't be able to execute the Zakin Mamre. Let's say some number of people from the Sanhedrin are in Beis Pagi. They're having a halachic discussion, and the Zakin Mamre disagrees with them. They reach one consensus, Zakin Mamre reaches a different conclusion. You can't execute the Zakin Mamre based on Rabbi, because again, there's the whole rest of the Sanhedrin who's still in Lishkas HaGozis. For all you know, they agree with the Zakin Mamre and not with the other members of the Sanhedrin. Elapshita, the Nafik Kulu. Rather, once you're talking about a case where what? The entire Sanhedrin left the Lishkas HaGozis and now are outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Lemay. Now, when would you ever have a situation where the entire Sanhedrin would leave, as a group, as a collective group, leave the Lishkas HaGozis somewhere else? If you want to say that it was for a Dvarashus, or saying non-mitzvah purpose, mimatzu nafki, can the Sanhedrin ever leave the Lishkas HaGozis for non-mitzvah purposes? That will say, the Rush says, by the way, yes, of course. There's a simple answer when the Sanhedrin is able to leave for non-mitzvah purposes. They will say, when is that? To go home. He says to go home. They don't live there. They work there. So again, what the Gemara is pointing out is, when would they leave as a body? In other words, obviously, if they all go home, meaning at the end of the day is over, right? Lishkas, right? The Sanhedrin only works by day; they don't work at night. So at the end of the day, if they're going home, they're not leaving as a unified body. What the Gemara is asking is, when would you ever have a situation where the Lishkas HaGozis leaves as a unified body? So we'll say the Gemara quotes over here. The Father of Shir Hashirim, Sararech Agan Hasar Al Yechsar HaNezek. Literally, again, I will say this, and most of Shir Hashirim is a metaphor. ultimately, again, literally, the navel or the waist is like the moon. Do not go ahead, do not go ahead and take away from the proper dilution. So without getting, Rashi points out this whole drush over here. The point that the drasha makes is that the Sanhedrin is not supposed to be uprooted as a body. So why would they ever go ahead and uproot themselves? So the Gemara says, rather, it must be that the Sanhedrin left the Lishkas Hagozis for some mitzvah purpose. So Hechitami. So we'll say, what is the case of where the Sanhedrin ultimately is uprooting for a mitzvah purpose? Lav lemedidas egla. Is this not, Rabbi say, for what? When would the Sanhedrin ever go ahead and uproot itself as a unified body to go somewhere else? It must be for what? It must be the case ultimately when they found the corpse between two cities. They found the corpse between two cities, and the Sanhedrin, as a unified body, left Lishkas Hagozis to go and to measure. So the Gemara says, and whose opinion does this reflect? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov the Amar Kuli Sanhedrin Banidan. Oh, so what do you see? That Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov doesn't just argue in terms of the Melech and the Kohen Gadol. Rather, he actually requires that what? That for Egla Arufa, the entire Sanhedrin goes to measure the distance between the two cities for the person who was murdered. So the Gemara says, Amar le Abaye lo kigon shiyatzu lahosef ala ir va'ala azaros. Maybe not. Maybe it's not for Egla Arufa. In other words, there could be another reason why the entire Sanhedrin would leave Lishkas Hagozis. Why? Let's listen to this. If they want to add on to the city of Yerushalayim, or to the Azaros, to the Temple Mount itself. Kidisnan, ein mosifin al ha'ir ve'al ha'azaros. Both say the halach is, if you want to enlarge the municipality of Yerushalayim, so you can enlarge the city of Yerushalayim, that requires the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin has to go and formally sanctify the enlarged borders of the municipality of Yerushalayim. Similarly, we'll say, if you want to enlarge the Harabayas, so you can do that as well and confer sanctity upon that enlarged area, as long as what? The Sanhedrin. We'll say, remember, we saw this during Shavuos. This is one of the reasons why many hold that you could visit, especially again today, you could go up to especially the outskirts of the Harabayas, is because that extra area, today what we call Harabayas, was enlarged by Herod, by Hordus. That area was never sanctified by the Sanhedrin. According to almost everyone will agree, everyone pretty much does agree, that Lamaisa, that area has no Kiddushas Harabayas. Those who say not to go on to Harabayas say not to go on for different reasons, because people might get confused, people might venture into areas that they're not supposed to be in, but everyone agrees that the outskirts, the perimeter, certainly what we call the perimeter of the Harabayas, meaning as long as you're not going within proximity to the Dome of the Rock, advisable for a variety of different reasons. Right, but not yet till Mashiach comes. They will say, but at the end of the day, the perimeter was never hukdash, was never sanctified by the Sanhedrin. So the Gemara says, so maybe that. So what the Gemara is saying over here is, when the Brisa talks about a case of where the Sanhedrin is not in the Lishkas Hagozis, it must be talking about a case of Egla Arufa, and it's a proof that Eliezer ben Yaakov says that the entire Sanhedrin must go ahead and leave the Lishkas Hagozis to go for the Egla Arufa. The Gemara says no. There are other reasons why the Sanhedrin will leave the Lishkas Hagozis. They want to enlarge the municipality of Yerushalayim. They want to enlarge the Harabayas. That requires the entire Sanhedrin. So the Gemara says, Hayek Rav Yosef. That supports the position of Rav Yosef. So the Gemara says, Matzana beis pagi v'himra le'en. Ultimately, again, if the Zakin Mamre finds the Sanhedrin beis pagi outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and he rebels against them, what would be an example ultimately again where they left the Sanhedrin, where they left Lishkas Hagozis? Kigon sheyatzu lemedidas egla ulahosef ala ir va'al ha'azaros. So we'll say, for example, they left for Egla Arufa, or they left to enlarge the city of Yerushalayim, or they left to enlarge the Harabayas. I'm at a thought that his rebellion should be a valid rebellion. Talmud Lomar v'kamta va'alisa elamakom. So we'll see from here that the Sanhedrin ultimately again would leave for a variety of different reasons. But a Zakin Mamre may only be chayiv misa if he rebels in the Lishkas Hagozis. But if he rebels against them, even if they're together as a unified group, but they are not in Lishkas Hagozis. For example, they left for Egla Arufa, or they left to enlarge Yerushalayim, or they left to enlarge the Azar the Harabayas. Nevertheless, the Zakin Mamre cannot be executed if the Sanhedrin is outside of Lishkas Hagozis. So we have a three machlokas as to the size of Beis Din you need for Egla Arufa. Do you need 3? Do you need 5? or do you need the entire Sanhedrin? So what's the Hadri Paskin? The Rambam Paskins that for Egla Aruf we Paskin like, and ultimately again we will require a Beis Din of 5. 5-member Beis Din for Egla Arufa is the number according to the Rambam. Good. Right. It says the Gemara. Not to Ravai Meister Sheni Shein Damav you do in Bishlosh. So we'll say if you have not to Ravai. So not to Ravai, remember, is 4th year produce. For the first 3 years, the produce is Arla. 4th year is called not to Ravai, and in that 4th year it's treated like Meister Sheni. It's yours. You could eat it, but it has to be consumed where? It has to be consumed in Yerushalayim. So I'll say if you want to redeem this, and Meister Sheni is the same idea, you have to eat Meister Sheni in Yerushalayim. If you want to redeem this, you have to redeem it in front of 3, right? If the value is somewhat ambiguous, you have to redeem it ultimately in front of a Beis Din of 3 to make sure that you are redeeming it ultimately for the correct value. So we'll say what's an example of Meister Sheni that doesn't have a known value? We'll say, for example, let's say you have produce, but the produce rotted. So at this point in time, again, remember, you don't value the Meiser Sheni based on rotted produce. You value it based on what? Based on what it was. Let's say you don't know what that is. So you have to assemble a Beis Din to try to figure out what the proper value of that is. The Yayin Shekrim, or wine that went bad. So the idea over here is, in the present, the present value, what you base your valuation on. So you have to assemble a Beis Din to try to figure out what it was worth once upon a time. Or I will say money which became rusty. So remember again, if you have money, remember they're talking about money that was made of precious metals. So you have money that became rusty and therefore does not have the same value. But this is very interesting. If you have Meiser Sheni and you don't know the value of the Meiser Sheni, I'm the owner of the Meiser Sheni. I want to redeem it because I don't want to take the produce. I just want to go ahead, or the produce is rotten. I want to just take the money. I'll spend the money in Yerushalayim. So I don't know the value. So what do? I assemble 3 people of Beis Din to help me assess the value. So what's the halacha? Bodin also b'shlosha lekuchos. So we'll say the halacha is you assemble a Beis Din of who? You assemble. We'll say now you don't want who do you want for this Beis Din? I don't need Talmidei Chachamim. What I need is Rashi says lekuchos sochrim b'kiyim b'shuma. I need merchants. Otherwise, I don't need great Talmidei Chachamim. I need people who know the value of produce. So this Beis Din is a Beis Din ultimately comprised of 3 merchants who can help me assess the value of the produce. Furthermore, again, however, the Gemara says, but don't use 3 who are not merchants in order to assemble, after you finish Hataras Nadarim, to say, hey, Chevra, help me go ahead and assess the value of my Meiser Sheni. That's meaningless. That's meaningless. I need merchants. Afilu nachri echad mehen. You could even use a Gentile. You could use a non-Jew. Because we'll say this is not a din in Beis Din per se. This is a din in, it is a din in Beis Din, but it's a Beis Din for valuation purposes. As such, even if one of the members is a non-Jew, that's fine as well. Afilu echmen bailim. We'll say, I as the owner of the produce, if I happen to be a merchant, I could also be one of the members of that Beis Din. Well, so what happens if you have 3 merchants, but they're all business partners? Matilun lekos echad means literally they all put their money in the same pot, right? They're all business partners. So I'll say, so the shaila is over here. Can they go ahead and form a Beis Din or not? In other words, can they be reckoned as 3 independent parties, or because they are business partners, they're considered to be one entity? So the Gemara says, Tashma, ish ushtein nashav, podin meiser sheni, shein dama vidyon. So what do we see from here? A man and his 2 wives could form the Beis Din for meiser sheni redemption, assuming that it's a man and 2 wives who know what they're talking about. So what do you see from here, Say that the assumption is that a husband and wife are quote-unquote business partners, right? That a husband and wife are matil l'kisecha, meaning their money is joint. So therefore, again, you see from here that even if you have 3 business partners that are of joint financial interests, they could still form a Beis Din of 3. So maybe not kigon, maybe dilma, kigon Rav Papa, ubas abba surah. Maybe not. Maybe at the end of the day, we're talking about a marriage like Rav Papa and his wife, who was the daughter of Abba Surah. So we'll say, what's the pshat of the Abba Surah? So listen to this. Rashi says, Bas Abba Surah, Eishes Rav Papa, Kidar B'Ksubis, Perik Elinarus, Rav Papa, Amrali Bas Abba Surah, V'Haisa Osalatzma. So we'll say, remember again, the halacha is that at the end of the day, a husband is obligated to support his wife. But the halacha is that if a woman says, said that at the end of the day, I'm going to support myself. You don't have to support myself. She is permitted to go ahead and decline support to keep her own earnings. So the Gemara just points out you can't automatically assume that a husband and wife are like joint business partners, because you could have a situation where the wife decides to keep her own earnings and go ahead and support herself, like Rav Papa and Bas Abba Surah. So bottom line, the Gemara says over here, 3, ultimately again to be Podem Sheni, whose value is unknown. The owner could comprise one of the 3. A non-Jew who is also a merchant could comprise one of the 3. And halacha l'maisa, a man with both of his wives, even if they have joint financial interests, are permitted to compose the Beis Din for 3 for valuation of Ma'aser Sheni as well. We'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up with Ekdeishas B'Shlosha. I would suggest if anyone is davening at the night minyan, they need additional people at the Grossman Minyan on 7 Mile Lane. So if you're able to help out with that minyan, we appreciate it.